Oh, hello.
Hey, Malou, how are you?
Good.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I apologize. I'm late. My computer wasn't working.
Not at all. I just I was able to text my next appointment and just say that I might be delayed.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just do the best we can.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And it's good to see you.
Good to see you. So what made the move?
Oh, what made the move? Oh, how was the move?
Yes, yes. How's the move and what made you move to, is it Maryland?
Yeah, it's Maryland. My wife
Yeah.
wanted to move down, so I moved down because she wanted to, and I wanted to see something new, try something new. So
Oh, great.
that's
Yeah.
what it is. That's
Yeah.
what it is. So far, so good.
Good. Wonderful. It's a much bigger city and
Much bigger city. It's like when you're driving through Hartford, the streets are so small and narrow, and then here the streets are just like 5, 6 lanes of cars.
my gosh, yeah, there's a much bigger that you can,
Yeah, yeah, and like you
definitely.
can't. It's so big you really can't walk anywhere unless you're going for a nice long hike. You can't walk anywhere. There's no around the
Yeah,
corner. There's no corner store. There's just huge plazas, real long sidewalks. But
yeah,
I like that though. It's forcing me to get back in shape.
yeah, right, yeah.
So
And,
how
and
have you been?
so, yeah, it's we're just adjusting here for the reopening,
Okay, good, good.
and
Glad to hear
and
that.
yes, and so here we are, and then the kids, you have no, the kids are adjusting to
Yeah,
the new
yeah, my kids are here
surroundings.
now. They're in a room playing quietly. They my oldest one kind of misses school. My youngest one never really went to school because he's only 4. My oldest one, he kind of misses school. He misses his friends a little bit. But
Yeah.
other than that, they're adjusting very well. They have each other, so they keep each other nice and calm and happy and safe.
Mhm. Yeah. So I'm glad that you've been keeping up with this mindfulness and
I
meditation.
have, I have.
You know?
So
Yes.
what we're doing is the name of this show. I call it Mindful Morning, and what I
Mhm.
basically do is I interview people. We basically talk about various spiritual traditions, techniques for meditation and mindfulness, and we basically like to specifically talk about how your spiritual tradition, your spiritual path, your mindfulness helps you to survive in this crazy time that we're living in. We want to take all those ancient teachings and show people how it's applicable now.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so I want to just basically start off with letting everybody who's going to watch this later on, let them all know that you were actually my teacher. You actually were the one who taught me and certified
Oh.
me. So I can become a meditation mindfulness teacher myself. So I want to first and foremost thank you for that, Malou,
Of
and I also want
course.
to thank you
Yeah.
for giving me this time for this interview. So
It was
let's start off by asking, what is your spiritual tradition that you grew up with?
the this well, I being born in the Philippines, the Philippines is 98% Catholic or 95% Catholic, and then the rest are the Protestants and other religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I also grew up Buddhist because I grew up in a um, in a place where I just there's many in the Chinese community are also Buddhist,
Mm-hmm.
right? And my mother is Buddhist as well. But so I grew up with that, with the two traditions,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of I value, yeah. And then now having also knowing two cultures as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's the traditional culture, and then now the culture I'm in here. Okay,
Gotcha.
yeah. And so the Buddhist practice, that there are many forms of Buddhism, and for me, I was introduced to the Tibetan Buddhist uh, practice.
Gotcha.
Tibetan Buddhism, which is, you probably know, the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa.
Okay.
And,
And how did you get introduced to Tibetan Buddhism specifically?
well, I was, it was back, well, backtrack a little bit. I was already interested in meditation as a young girl,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then just reading books and just being contemplative. So naturally, I would gravitate to books about meditation, contemplative practices,
Mm-hmm.
and mindfulness back then. and so when I was in college, I was during in my geology major,
Mm-hmm.
the engineering department. One of my the classmates was holding a book. It was a spiritual book. I believe it was Sufi or Rumi. I forgot, but
Mm-hmm.
it brought my attention. Oh, you read that types of book too. Among the textbooks
Mm-hmm.
he has those books, and then and definitely those are the types of books about contemplation and mystical traditions.
Mm-hmm.
I've been already reading on my own and exploring. So we had a chat, and then it turns out he's part of this meditation group, which is a Buddhist meditation group and study center, and that belonged to the Tibetan Buddhism tradition. And so he invited me. Oh yeah, I go to this group, and I'd like to invite you. Want to join? Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I'm already interested. And so that's how it started, and it belonged to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And then one of the and the there's a resident teacher there who is a retired abbot of a monastery from Tibet, and he was a meditator for 17 years in the one of the caves of the Himalayas.
Oh wow.
So he was really he was special and had shown some spiritual qualities from his practice and the
Mm-hmm.
wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not enough to cover here, but I was really impressed by this holy man, genuinely holy man. And in the Himalayas, in a cave, there is no about a comforts of home, no
Mm-hmm.
heater, no things, and 15 years he was like a hermit, in solitary meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, the treasure trove of
Right.
wisdom
Right.
one would have discovered by that.
Right.
And so he was our, and then so then from then, that's how basically I started, and I met many Buddhist meditation masters through that, as they come and visit and teach, and so that's how I started my things. I trained and studied with them, and I'm grateful for the sponsors and the center volunteers that helped kept it going. And and then when I moved here in the States 30 how many years ago now, 31 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Then then of course I connected with the centers here. There's a Buddhist center in Woodstock, New York, Karma Triana Dharma Chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1997, I co-established the affiliate center, Hartford Karma Teksumchon, Hartford KTC for short.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2007, I also another nonprofit organization, Taro Shared Group, which initiated the community project, the Hartford Mindfulness Center,
Right.
where we have given mindfulness training, and which you participated
Mm-hmm.
in the mindfulness certification program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the idea is to build a mindful society, with one person, one mind at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you,
Mhm.
what was it about meditation that caught your attention at such an early age? Because most, young ladies are not thinking about meditation at all. What was it about meditation that fascinated you?
I've always, I think it has something to do with me, maybe, and I would really think that we all have this as a child, our curiosity. Oh, once we become curious about the world, what is this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, where did I come from? Who am I? Right? We have those existential question,
Mm-hmm.
the meaning of life, and where does this go? Is what's the past? Is this just life here?
Mm-hmm.
So the meaning of purpose, and it never left me.
Right. Right.
And and I've then been inquisitive, and we always have animals, and I would just through observation study them, you know, how they relate with with each other, and their order, and then I saw that there is something also that mimics in our society as humans.
Mm-hmm.
So that began really my inquisitiveness, that I was basically interested in psychology. But interesting too that Buddhism has also what we call Buddhist psychology,
Mm-hmm.
the study of the mind, the study of perception,
Right.
and how we perceive the world, the science of mind.
Okay.
Somehow it's also called the science, there's an aspect in Buddhism we call the science of mind
Mm.
too. And then with that, there are many different levels of training and practices,
Gotcha.
right? Yeah, it is that it involves training. Um, um, Basically, you're allowed to question, right? And then you also have this self inquisitiveness to develop self awareness.
Right.
So there are certain forms of meditation where we call self inquiry meditation to help develop greater understanding of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so through the practice of meditation, you know, you you learn to see the nooks and crannies of of your own mind, yeah, you're seeing the forest of your mind, and the trees in within your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then it gives you that space to look, to step back.
Right.
And
Right.
then by stepping back, ooh, we observe quite a few things, my
Mm-hmm.
tendencies, my thought patterns,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe some harmful or self-defeating thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That, ooh, like looking at that. So, and then one discovers that amid this cloud of thoughts and repetitive habitual mental habits and thoughts, there's also what we call the innate wisdom mind,
Mm-hmm.
the wisdom eye of seeing. Maybe you can maybe say that even in the clouds there's the sun above it, that's just looking at the clouds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that is our awareness. When we train, we will be able to connect at it more. The reason why, maybe, if we not have access to it, then we will just be carried away
Right.
by those muddled thoughts and repetitive thoughts.
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
So when you were young growing up, you had these two spiritual traditions you grew up with. One was like the Catholic Protestant Christianity, and the other side was the side where there was Buddhism. Was there
Yeah.
ever a moment in your life where you felt like they were kind of in conflict with one another?
Well, uh, it started off where, I actually, because Buddhism is actually the most ecumenical,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, because it respects all religion. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do baptism,
Right.
because it doesn't even try to proselytize or convert you,
Right.
you know, and and it actually widened my acceptance and understanding. That so whenever we drive through, and then I see different churches, oh, I bow my respect.
Right.
I brought to the Protestant church, I bowed to the Catholic church, and then when we went to a mosque, I also bowed to the mosque.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a Jewish temple. I also bow. So, and then I actually have a best friend, three best friend. One, she was a Protestant, and then one time we were gonna go out on our break, and then I said, oh, before we go out, I want to go to the chapel and just meditate for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Come join me. She was so afraid to go to the chapel. She felt that it will be, she is now being disloyal to her Protestant religion.
Right. Right.
And then I said, oh, I see. So, and then I was just respectful. It's okay, but it's family very telling somehow what our belief system will be,
Mm-hmm.
and how biases and are formed,
Right.
right? And so, you know what? I'll also be happy. Do you have prayer meetings? I'd like to go to your, said, oh, you're okay with that? And she was, so, then I went. And so it's just opened my mind. And then another one is I actually have a good friend, Aziza. I remember that name because when she said that, oh, what a beautiful name. And she's from Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
They came to the Philippines because because of a job. Her father was with this bank, vice president,
Mm-hmm.
and so and she was a Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
and we became really good friends, and we shared lunches together. She has I learned what is the Egyptian cuisine cooked by her mom, and then my just typical Filipino dish, and we will share.
Right.
And so this is what it is. And then see what it is, how it started for me is that during the catechism class, you would say that, oh, if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, or that, then you will go to a purgatory.
Yeah.
And then I said, I was, as a child, I was really like, oh, but there many were born. They were not born Catholics. They were born Jewish from different tradition, Muslims and different traditions and
Mm-hmm.
many religion. And but God, if God created them, why would He send them to purgatory?
Mm-hmm.
So that is as a child's thing. And so I, at the same time, if there's the hell, but if I said God's mercy is basically He's very merciful, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then and then I asked this in my catechism class. Oh, but does it mean that He has also a limit to His mercy? That if they did some very heinous acts, there will be internal damnation in hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then she couldn't answer. So anyway, that led me to basically pray each night, that may all beings be liberated, even if they don't believe in Jesus, in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
that may be liberated. That God is, don't send them to purgatory.
And
So
the
liberation.
same thing kind of happened to me when I was young, where I would go to church and ask questions, and they would run out of answers very quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and then when I've discovered Buddhism, the first thing that struck me is compassion for all without exception.
Right.
That, ooh, for compassion for all, great or small, without exception,
Mm-hmm.
and that really, really resonated with my heart.
Right.
And then since then, that led me to explore it more, and I learned and learned and learned more. In the beginning, there are some things that because my coming from a background of from the being studied at a Catholic school from all my years, elementary, high school, and even college. It's all run by this Catholics, nuns, and then the brothers. So it's that what I have there. So it will there's things that may run in conflict, but then I just said, okay, I don't may not understand this now, but I'll just continue with my meditation practice
Mm-hmm.
and study, and then receiving more information in terms of the Dharma study from these teachers. And then more and more, then I learned more, readers. Oh, I see now, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Right. Right.
And then it's one thing about the Buddhist tradition is that the belief that we all have that Buddha nature, or in Christian terms, that divine spark,
Right. Right. Right.
right? Yeah. And that divine spark, Buddha nature, is inherently already pure and good. So therefore, it's already, we have that inner innate worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And how we and then, but not being aware of that, then the tendency is to be misled by how we measure our worth is through how we are seen by others, how the culture, how we measure up with the culture, the standards of society, and
Mm-hmm.
the standards of other people, you know and so if we don't measure up to
Mm-hmm.
that, then we feel there's a feeling of unworthiness comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, that as a very young age, I already know that there's such a thing as your inner compass, the north, the true north.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't know the true north, you can easily be led by, if there's a compass and there's this metal object, which is a false sense of worthiness or imputed upon by external,
Mm-hmm.
then the compass will go there, right? And then you're on a very whole different trajectory in your life.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
But if you know your inner compass, your true worth, knowing that, okay, I might not be good in math, or I might have anger issues, or or some I might be dyslexic or whatever, but but fundamentally, inherently, I have this innate worthiness. Means when it is innate, inherent, it is not man-made,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, what is not made cannot be destroyed,
Right, right.
cannot be changed.
Mm-hmm.
All we need is to first to give that transmission that there is such a thing, and then to be with it. And how then meditation helps when we ground ourselves with that knowing. And then when we ground ourselves with meditation, techniques of developing self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are and meditation techniques and how to meditate, because first we do need to learn what is meditation and how to meditate. Otherwise we will just be sitting there not knowing you know
Right,
why what we're doing, right?
right.
Yeah. And so there are a few misunderstandings of meditation, like, oh, you have to empty your thoughts.
Right.
That's not that, it's not that way. It's impossible, because our mind naturally will have thoughts, just like the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural for the ocean to have waves.
Right, right, right.
Even a lake where
Yes,
there
yes,
where there are no, will have waves when it's windy,
right.
right? But the waves, the nature of the waves and the ocean are the same. They're just the movement in the ocean
Mm-hmm.
caused by winds and also the current, right? So similarly, our thoughts and emotions are just like the movements of our own mind. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're just movements of our own mind. And then what happened is that when we are not aware, we then catch each thoughts like, oh, catch that wave, catch that wave, catch that wave. Then we will just be surfing through life without really knowing the depth of the ocean, without really knowing the depth of the nature of our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the things of mindfulness, meditation, mindfulness meditation. Why? Well, because we have a mind, right? Because we have a mind, wouldn't it be helpful to know our mind,
Yeah.
to have a better
How to use it.
understanding of our own mind?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how do we know? How can we start to know our own mind if we don't even pay attention to it? We don't even look at it. We don't even try to observe it, right? What it is that what we observe in the world, we perceive in the world, they come from mind, our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
They are the projections of our mind. You know, it would be just like, it is part of our mind to perceive through our senses. And then this about five senses, from the experiences of our five senses, and then the mind is also self-aware. Then it will also like have a mental mental image or mental labels of all the experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so knowing that mental processes, which is also part of mind. So we call it in Buddhist psychology, training and classes. that's a sixth consciousness, is the mind consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
the perception. And then there's another eight consciousness, and I won't go through that
Mm-hmm.
because it's a whole. And meditation basically works with that mental consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
so to kind of like, oh, look at that, right? How
Mm-hmm.
we perceive, and what is the mechanism of that.
Right.
Yeah, because the more we know, the more we learn, the more we will know how to work with our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is that we end up minding other people's mind instead of minding our own mind,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
We mind other people's mind, how they are. We judge them. We have judgment. They should be doing this. They should be doing that. And so on and so forth. But yeah. So therefore, it's really about the mind looking inwards, mind looking at itself.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, when meditators are sitting and people said, oh, they're doing nothing, it's really, actually, there's a lot going on. It's
Right.
mental training,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It would be, we do physical training, or go to physical trainer and exercises to train our muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But meditation is also a mental training. The more you're meditating, there are certain parts of the brain that becomes more, muscles, like
Right.
mindfulness muscles develop.
Mm-hmm.
We start changing the neural pathways of our brain through
Right.
self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of self-awareness, we can catch our own mental habits, and then it can lessen our reactivity
Right. Right.
to stressors, to triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and then because of that, there will be a few health and mental, well-being benefits for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If we are less stressed, you know, there will be less cortisol, because and then cortisol leads to inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's many on the internet now, benefits of meditation.
Right.
I'm sure for your readers to be interested even in this topic, they they have some curiosities about meditation, I've read.
Right. Right.
So, but then as a meditator first, basically we started because for spiritual transformation, and then all the others that the neuroscience and the medical community are saying on the benefits of meditation are really the side effects of meditation,
Right. Right. Right.
right? But as a spiritual practitioner in the Buddhist tradition, we, our first goal is transforming our mind,
Right.
you know, and when we
I want to interject real quick. I'm sorry to cut you
Mhm.
off, but I wanted to ask you a quick question. You mentioned something that I really want to kind of go over with you when you said compassion for all beings. That's tough for a
Mhm.
lot of people, simply
Yes,
because, like myself, I don't know if you remember, I used to work with kids in a drug rehab facility for adolescents. A lot
yes,
of
I
those,
remember.
yeah, a lot of those kids were abused, they were molested, they were beaten, they were tortured. Not to mention the fact that we live in a very racist culture. And me, as a black man in America, I'm
Yeah.
watching the news, I'm seeing police brutality, I'm seeing a lot of violence against black people just because of the color of our skin. It's hard to be
Mhm.
compassionate against individuals who hurt children, who are
Yes.
racist, who are angry. How does one develop compassion for all beings, even the ones who hurt us? And why is that important?
Yes. First, you know, yes, when I see violence, right, and then I see it, like you said, you witness it firsthand from the children you work with,
Mm-hmm.
and for many from the news. I mean, I'm appalled,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm appalled and said, oh my gosh, and then I think through being aware of my own reactions, it really helps.
Mm-hmm.
It helps for me to see how I react to the world. Because, if I get angry, you know, and that, there's a really good example, but, I will go back to what I'm going to say again later. There was this monk that was tortured in Tibet because, Tibet was invaded by China.
Right.
And the many Buddhist monks were incarcerated, and not only that, tortured.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when this monk was finally released and came to the U.S. and met with the Dalai Lama, the Dalai Lama asked him, "How are you? Are you okay? How much have you suffered?" He said, "Well," he said, "I'm okay." I said, "Were you in danger?" He said, "Well, yes, I mean, he almost lost his life and he had so much injury. But he said the most thing that he feared was that was in danger is to have lost his compassion. That is what he was most worried about, not so much on his life, but almost losing his compassion to
Mm-hmm.
his torturers, right?
Wow.
And so that was really powerful.
That's crazy.
And then see, when anger, is only anger, and the cycle of anger only begets anger.
Mm-hmm.
We know about this. The ones that anger to torturers sometimes become torturers themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the same loop. That's why I am angry, and then we talk about I have a right to be angry because.
Mm-hmm.
There are also all those good reasons, right, why I have this anger and hatred for this group of people, for this group of that, and this torturers and this and that. But then one can say that there's the anger, but then what does that do to the person that is holding that anger?
Mm-hmm.
What does it do to their health, to their mind, to their mental being,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is just that, oh, and is it healthy? That's one may ask. Is this
Mm-hmm.
healthy for me?
Mm-hmm.
So what to do, right? First is to be with oneself first, like, be in that field of um, acknowledging, the wave of emotions. Again, the disturbance in one's mind. Remember the wave, the movement of one's mind. Ooh, this is almost like a tsunami, or this is like a big wave, and like, Waikiki,
Mm-hmm.
and then just acknowledge that. But then you don't stop there, because otherwise, when you stay there, one can just be caught, like being, dwell, because anger is also, and other emotions that are very compelling, also can be addictive.
Right.
Right? One can be addicted to stress, one can be addicted to anger, right? And therefore, when there's things of that happening, it brings up all of that to people, right? It become a collective anger. So, but after working with that, then yes, then you feel compassion for those that were injured, hurt, the victims. And then you also saw the ignorance of those torturers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that, and then because in Indian Buddhism there is, we call karma, cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, that karma of that person who killed, who harbored out of hatred, that's not gonna be good for that person,
Mm-hmm. But
right?
when you think about it,
Then,
and this is just my perception, because I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. But say, for instance, you had those monks who were being tortured in Tibet, and they were being treated like they were not even human, and they got
mhm.
angry. Let's say they got angry and gave up their compassion for the torturers. Couldn't that anger be used as fuel to stop not only the torturers now, but it could be used as a fuel to stop torture in the future? If
Yeah, and this is what I was leading up to.
Okay.
Once you see it, just it is an energy, and then it gives you clarity.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to wisdom, and then intelligent action, as opposed to reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we know often that when one um, acts influenced by reactivity of anger,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't bode well. You end up saying things that you will later regret. You end up doing things that you will later regret.
Mm-hmm.
But the pause, so that you can have access to, what will be intelligent approach, intelligent action, the wisdom path
Right.
towards working with this.
Right.
And then by doing so, then this is where the because in the five poisons we call the difficult emotions: anger, jealousy, pride, attachment, desire,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, anger,
We call
ignore.
those
And so they once you work with that, they are transformed into wisdom. And so anger is actually transformed into mirror like wisdom.
mm-hmm.
And
Gotcha.
then that it transformed energy. Then you can then, would say how you be more effective in and then impactful in your way of if what you can do to contribute to society.
Gotcha. So the anger is more destructive. It's not. The anger is not really going to change anything. The anger is only going to perpetuate it, and you have to.
It will be just stuck. Look, if we look at history,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's just history repeating itself,
True.
right? Yeah. And so therefore, through one's practice of self-awareness and working with the energy of emotions, one can have access to skillful means, right?
Right.
Skillful means coupled with wisdom together. There are
Mm-hmm.
two wheels you
Gotcha.
have, and two wings too, you know. So, wisdom and compassion together.
Right.
But that cannot have that if one is stuck in the malaise of anger. In the end, and then what happened? It just sits you down. It can lead to depression, anxiety, and being frozen,
Right. Right.
right? And then one is just stuck again with that one. When something happens again, because those unrecognized, unresolved, or not understood, caught in that energy of anger, will rise up again.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically how. It doesn't mean that you will just be passive. So
Right.
there's what we call engaged Buddhism, you know. Yeah. But But in order to get there, then there are certain steps so that you will have more tools with you.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Now, before we go, because I know you said you had something to do at noon, and it's getting close to noon now. I
Mhm.
wanted
I was able to text to just delay it a little bit.
Okay,
So yeah.
gotcha. Before we go, I definitely wanted to ask you about that very peculiar experience that I talked to you about a while ago, where I was meditating about the green Tara, and she was kind of like appearing to me.
Mhm.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about the green Tara, who she is, and what she does?
Mhm. Yes. In Buddhism, there are, we call it bodhisattvas,
Mhm.
right? And well, without going through the many Buddhist terms and so maybe I would just say a green Tara is the female equivalent of an enlightened being, of a Buddha, right? And green Tara, her history is she came from another world system. See, because it's in the Buddhist text, as Buddha, when once becomes enlightened, you will know everything. You will have omniscience. So Buddha, when he became totally enlightened, he was saw all he would know everything. There's no past, present, future. You are right there. So the Green Taram, she was at one point a princess in a kingdom in another world system, and being compassionate and virtuous, the monk said, "Oh, in your next life, you should pray that you become a man so that you become Buddha. But since, Green Tara, at that time, she was not, Green Tara yet, but she said, oh, because she has this wisdom, she achieved the level of wisdom already and achievement. He said, no, that is, the idea of gender, male, female. It's really, it's in ultimate reality, there's no such thing.
Right.
Only people who are ignorant. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, well, because of that, when she made the aspiration, when I get enlightened, I will then always take the shape of a woman
Mm-hmm.
to benefit beings.
Mm-hmm.
And now she did. So each time she was have emanation, see, and then she is the equivalent of a Buddha in female form,
Mm-hmm.
and she has many emanations, 21 emanations. What are emanations? And the sun's rays, but they all come from that. So by doing so, it's just different ways of manifesting how it you're helped by different sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Tara, she is what we call her specialty as the Green Tara is the wish fulfilling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
deity. She is also, if you see her picture, I don't have one exactly here, is that her, instead of in a lotus position with the feet move in, feet is already out, right legs already outside, outward, meaning just like a mother, quick to help, you
Right.
know,
Right.
already very instant to help. So she basically protects one's mind, protect oneself from danger, and and so on. At the same time, she's also a, a symbolism of that is also within us, an archetype of the enlightened quality that's also within us.
Right.
So when we meditate, we meditate, we go through the green Tara, so that we train our mind, that we awaken that that our inner, an inner potential, you know,
Mm-hmm.
innate potential to wake up to, just like her when she was just like a sentient being,
Mm-hmm.
through training, through practice, through knowing one's mind, and through also virtuous action, creating more positive karma until you're enlightened,
Right.
creating the positive causes and conditions for a spiritual practice. She then, yeah, she was able to wake up. So it's not something that we to try to achieve. It's really that Buddha potential, that Buddha, awakening,
Mm-hmm.
because we already have that. It's more on to start to unlearn, our misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you're mining you're mining a diamond. The diamond was the essence of the diamond, the nature of diamond never changed, no matter how much dirt it was covered.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, the same. It's just a matter of purifying our misconception, purifying you really like our ignorance, you know, so that we can discover that is what is just covered up by our filters,
Mm-hmm.
our mistaken beliefs,
Right.
right, of how things really are in that way.
That's
And then it's only through the mind looking at mind and through that stillness and quiet that we discovered how things really are, you
yeah.
know. Just like all of this, what we do are just downloads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Download of the different labels that we attach to, the different reference point, they're just labels, and then by not being attached to the label, even the label of I,
Mm-hmm.
me, is also just a label,
Right.
you know, because you, in the eyes of your son, you're a father.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife, you are her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Your friend, you're the friend, and then those who don't like you, you're whatever they put,
Yeah.
and your parents, you are a son.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, is how is the eye? Is the eye this, that? So if there's a permanent eye, then everyone would only look at you same,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there is eye is just a label, and therefore it can be that. But what happened is that we get so attached to that identity, and then if we get that attached to that identity, and we don't get what we want, we are not this and that, then yes, we result to very difficult emotions
Mm-hmm.
that way. So that's kind of, this is looking and looking. And then once we are through our spiritual practice, those something loosens up with our uh, grasping and attaching to, as an identity.
Mm-hmm.
I even a job, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a financial advisor. But then what are those really? Once you retire, there's someone meet people like, oh, they lost their identity, who they are.
Right.
So this is what I called earlier with regards to how, we put our self-worth, and then we have always to pump it up again. Create is a big project each day to maintain that in order to have that self-worth, so that we will be respected from outside society. Were it not probably first to have a healthy relationship with ourselves, a positive relationship, to first, respect ourselves already, right? And acknowledge that we have that inner self-worth. But that's not easy to do, because when we grow up, we have all kinds of trauma and difficulties that basically gave us to think what we are, these sets of belief systems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's a good start to just learn. And so the idea is to unlearn. And once we are not so much attached to this self-identity, then, we can be friends with our emotions, and then we can also be more friends and more understanding of others.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it starts with the meditation allows us to listen more deeply within of ourselves first. Our complaint is we're not heard, but then do we hear ourselves? Not only that our reactions, but what is really the driver behind those those repetitive reactions,
Mm-hmm.
repetitive, the anger scenario again. I
Gotcha.
have this again, and then repetitive belief that, oh, I'm always being disrespected, right? Or anything. So, but it just gives you the sense of self inquiry. So in the beginning of mindfulness, when we are trying to just be with the emotion, is in order to help our mind to be calm. But that's just the level one. But then the deeper levels come in order for us to have understanding what is behind that
What was
reactivity.
that whisper?
Right. And then we understand yourself more, then your self-knowledge will increase. And when your self-knowledge increase, you start to be skillful with working with your own mind and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And then you become more accepting of yourself. And then it will follow, you will be the same way with others. Yes. And
Gotcha. So
and so
one question I wanted to ask you was, we're talking about the nature of the mind, how the mind functions. During my meditations with the Green Tara, as I mentioned, sometimes I would have like really intense visuals of her in my mind. Does that mean anything, or is that just the activity of the mind? What does it mean, or does it mean nothing?
um, of course, it's it has many. Probably I can just maybe sometimes, if you have that coming to you, it's possible that you might have a karmic connection, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
with the deity, or in this sense, Gwintara. Like me, I was always drawn to the feminine, the feminine divine.
Mm-hmm.
And like as a Catholic, the Virgin Mary and Green Tara, and then for me, and it's really have the same essence, right? Mother Tara, Mother Wisdom Tara, you
Right,
know,
right, right.
and so you might have that connection. And also Green Tara, she is also is green, which means karma, meaning activity,
Mm-hmm.
enlightened activity.
Right.
So therefore you have these things, yeah, like what you're doing now to do mindfulness is also an activity in the sense of, yes, being able, your form of service for others, to introduce them to the, so that they may benefit,
Mm-hmm.
from the practice of meditation and mindfulness,
Okay.
right? And so maybe, yes, one time we can talk more about, you know we can talk about more Green Tara, for you to learn more about her, if it comes up for you in your meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's a might be a connection there, and also what she represents,
Right, right.
right?
Actually,
So
during
that,
that.
so you too can start to kind of discover more and connect that within
Mm-hmm.
you. Maybe a inkling for you to develop and cultivate that, in a deeper level.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I actually did go to the KTC during
Yeah.
one of the Sundays where they were actually doing the worship of Green Tara. It was interesting. It was beautiful. And one and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
one thing that caught my attention was there was a whole like ritual they were doing where they were like kind of singing a song, reciting these words, and we went through the whole book. And then there was one part that was in the original language, and then underneath that they had like the English translation of what the
Yeah.
word meant.
Hmm.
And I think the last sentence of the whole poem or song, it said, "Now you and I are undifferentiated."
Hmm.
Does that mean that the goal is to become one with Tara?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And to be one, so the puja, or the Buddhist liturgy you participated, is actually a training of compassion, a compassion training, and also a training of putting your mind frequency in the in the purity of the Tara mandala
Mm-hmm.
of face, right? The enlightened quality, of compassion and wisdom together, basically. And and so you put yourself, like, you imagine you are already in this pure land of Tara, and then all splendor, and then Tara basically like blessing the world, blessing every sentient beings, and by doing so, that is a compassion practice.
Right. Right.
But you are tuning into the frequency, like you're raising your frequency by tuning in, just like if you want to tune into something in the radio, you would tune in, that's what you hear, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you started jiving with it. And here is a mind and heart frequency tuning in to that enlightened space.
Right.
And so with, imagining it and feeling what you're imagining it. So, it's like, you're really, imagining Tara, just, full of compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and having all that, all beings are freed from suffering. And when you're doing that together, and you're right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so already imagine your heart already vibing in compassion and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we just do, oh, I'm blessing, and da, 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 but isn't it more powerful when we tune in to that really, that energy, energy
Mm-hmm.
already. So we're raising the bar,
Right.
you know and we're raising our consciousness to there. So we are, and then bring it down. So the practice, it will be like, um it will be like, you are, like bring down the transformer. What is that? You into this third dimension,
Mm-hmm.
and then grounding it here,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And by doing that, you transform also your electromagnetic field, raises your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
By wanting to having compassion for beings, and wishing for them to be free from suffering and to be happy, you are already also raising you're already benefiting from that practice, right? And then eventually from that, when you tune in, and then there's a part where you bring Tara in your heart,
Mm-hmm.
and then so the idea here is to embody that, and if slowly through doing more practice, finally you are become one, because when you embody that enlightened vibration
Mm-hmm.
of wisdom and compassion, that's the idea, is finally to be embodied with that, right? And then and then therefore you're already thinking that, okay, Tara and I are one, undifferentiated towards the end.
Right.
And then of course, the idea is that, okay, I'm done with the practice, and then you go your way. But the idea is the training, so that when you get off of your meditation cushion, idea is to carry that forward, also to have that the genuine, pure vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a mind and heart training that way.
Gotcha. Okay. So my
So,
final question is, what do you think the spiritual tradition that you follow and that we're discussing, how do you think it can make the world a better place? How can it help people just to survive and get through these crazy times that we're in?
so you start, you certainly definitely, um, you see that first thing we see that how interdependent we are. One thing that strikes you is interdependence.
Mm-hmm.
You know that what one affects the world.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in Wuhan basically, became global. So we cannot discount the fact that, you know one is only a civilization is only as healthy as the others that are, all, like the strength of a chain is only through each strength of the chain.
Mm-hmm.
If one chain is weak, then
Yep.
that
Only as strong as the
yeah,
weakest
that's
link.
just
Yep.
weak. Yeah, so that is interdependent. Same thing with the ecosystem, the ecology. It's just that we don't just see that long term. We only see that's the immediate.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I saw that's impactful is how independent we are, and therefore, and meditating more deeply on that, and how does one, let's say, if certainly, if it create a lot of stress for people because they lost their job, their businesses,
Okay.
or health, they got, health challenges, and then the meditation will help with help them to be able to to work with, to calm the anxiety, so that it's not gonna create more health problems.
Right.
To help with depression, you will not just be frozen,
Mm-hmm.
mentally and emotionally frozen. uh, and and then um and then with that, we do Tara prayers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, that may all those that suffered, may they have relief now, and then may, and the pandemic over. At the same time, may we learn from this, from this, what we can learn from the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, last night I just saw a documentary on, it's on the Apple TV. I don't know if available in other streaming. How the world was. It's amazing what they did in nature and the animal world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of a sudden the ocean becomes so quiet that the whales started talking to all different kinds of tunes and languages. They started talking to each other more.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing, well, the whale and the mother, usually they're always together, but then because there was no disturbance, no wailing and everything, the mother felt comfortable to leave her calf in that part of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
so that she can join all the mothers to hunt together, because if you hunt together, you are more efficient.
Right.
I mean, that is unseen of. And how much, and all the others, the world has, and many have flourished.
Mm-hmm.
So we can also see that, oh my gosh, there's the natural world that we have just overlooked. maybe would it be nice to do for 1 month, we can just have a pause and
Hmm.
give Mother Nature, other creatures too, they have a right too, to how we can coexist
Right,
and
right.
thrive and together. And then at the same time, the health is interdependent for all of us somehow. And how the ocean become clear. Even in India, they saw all of a sudden everyone was screaming, come up to the roof of the house. And they see mountains, mountains, mountains everywhere. For the first time, when the smog cleared, they can actually see the Himalayan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was just right. The mountain was just there,
Hmm.
and they have not seen it because it was
Wow.
just covered with smog.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and and so it's really made me to turn more. Also, again, it was the opportunity to do inner retreat, more time to also to pause,
Hmm.
and at the same time, yes, do what I can to help with what's going on. Like we have here in our in my community, what was converted, this mini library was turned into food pantries.
Hmm.
So I'm participating with that, putting food, whenever I go shopping, I have another bag for the food pantries
Right, right.
that I filled up. I go to these places to fill this up, and anything that you can do, donating to the food bank, and doing what we can and participating what we can. So therefore, and also be there for those who are having anxiety and depression and having panic attacks. Be
Right.
their support as we see the extreme loneliness and
Hmm.
isolation, and so doing what we can to be there for them.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
as it is, whatever we can do to have a helping hand. Yeah, and
Okay.
but at the same time, looking at the big picture about we need each other, you know, and how we are all interdependent.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yep, that's beautiful. And thank
Mhm.
you once again, Malou Dusyn, for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it. And oh yeah, so you mentioned that there was going to be a reopening for the mindfulness center, right?
Yeah, we will be. I think what we will do because of COVID, and to be paying rent when we cannot have events.
Right.
So I moved it in here in the Hartford KTC
Right.
Center,
Hmm.
and now it's also the meditation mindfulness Hartford Mindfulness Center.
Hmm.
And then we might be able to do something at the outdoor and the backyard,
Okay.
which we did last time.
Okay.
We had meditation and sound healing vibration. There might be some offering at like maybe Zoom classes in the
Okay.
future, and it could be a hybrid.
Hmm.
Once people are more comfortable to be in some indoors, some hybrid, maybe that might be the new normal now, a hybrid, Zoom and in person.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know some yoga studio, they will can do an in-person yoga now, but only for those vaccinated.
Right.
And I see of that popping up for people only been vaccinated, because again, it's all the level of comfort and safety for others.
Right. Right.
So I don't know how that will evolve, but maybe hopefully that will be that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. Well, good luck, and once again, thank you for your time. And I will see you in the not too distant future. When I get this video on my computer, I'm going to put it up on my YouTube page, and I'll shoot you the link.
Oh yes, yes. Please, I would look forward.
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
have you have a YouTube link?
Yes, I do. When
Yeah.
this is done, I'll upload it to YouTube, and then when the video is up there, I'll send it to you.
Oh, great, wonderful. Thank you for doing this. Such a wonderful service, David,
No
and it's
problem. Thank you.
really and a really nice measure of your caring, and then this is each one of us have our own strength and
Hmm.
pool, and then this is one thing what we can contribute, to be of benefit. you know
Exactly. Exactly.
so thank you, and wonderful, your life in Maryland. I believe there's probably more excitement in Maryland and more
Yeah,
opportunities
I think so
there.
too.
Probably, yes, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, you take care, and then yes, so we'll stay in touch.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
again,
Enjoy your
so
weekend.
yeah, you too, and hello to the viewers, and
Mhm.
tune in always. Follow Devin McCrory's YouTube channel.
All right,
Okay,
exactly. Thank you.
I
Thank
will
you.
do the click that also. All right, thank you, Devin.
Have a good
Bye.
day.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay, okay, bye.